Hey guys, welcome to episode number 38. Today is the first ever DIY Wednesday, and today I'm going to show you how to build a 20-gallon aquarium stand for under $20. So come along with me and learn how to be a better aquarist.
So, this DIY request came from Jason R., who asked how to make a DIY aquarium stand for his turtle. So what I did was I took his request and I brought it into SketchUp. And what I did was I designed a 20-gallon stand. I designed a 29-gallon stand. I designed a 55-gallon stand, and then I designed a 125-gallon stand. And just for the sake of price and space, what I'm going to be focusing on for this video is the 20-gallon stand. Now, what I did was I used a simple 2x4 and screw construction, and you'll notice that these stands are as simple as possible, using the fewest number of pieces of wood, and this one is the only one that doesn't have a cross brace, and that's because 20 gallons isn't a whole lot of weight, so I wasn't really concerned with it. But this is the one I'm going to be building today. Real quickly, I'll run through the other ones. This is a 29-gallon stand, and you'll notice there's a fifth leg there. That's kind of to support some of the weight, because all the other weight is being held by the screws. If we move on, this is a 55-gallon stand, and you'll notice the diagonal cross braces on the back. That's really going to help to solidify your structure and make sure that there's no bending, there's no swaying, there's no skewing of your aquarium stand. You'll also notice that the four legs, are a little bit beefier on the ends. They've got an additional 2x4, and then I've added two more in the middle. This might be a little bit overkill, but I like to try to be safe in my designs. And then this is a 125-gallon tank stand. This one differs a little bit from the one that I previously built. The one that I previously built, I used 4x4s for the legs, and those proved to be way more than enough. And it actually ended up making my stand a lot heavier than it needed to be. So in this design, I've used 2x4s. All of the boards that I've used here are 2x4s, and you'll notice I have three diagonal cross braces in the back there. And the more triangles you add, the more structurally sound your aquarium stand is going to be. And you'll notice here that on all four of the corners, I've got two 2x4s that are acting as the main supports, and then I've got an additional few here in the middle that are also helping. So those are the stands that I built. I'll make these plans available in the comments, so you can download it and use it for yourself. I would ask that you don't take my measurements for granted. I know that probably all of these measurements are wrong. They're not wrong by a lot, but they might be wrong by a ½ inch or a ½ inch. So what you need to do is, before you use it, you need to measure the exact dimensions, your length and your width of your plastic base to your aquarium itself, and then add a ½ inch to each of your dimensions, your length and your width, and that will give you the appropriate dimensions for your wood before you start cutting. Also, I'm not a structural engineer, so proceed at your own risk. I generally overbuild my stands to support a maximum load that's much greater than the dead load that you're going to place on top of it, but I don't take responsibility for the safety of the stands that you build with my plans, so just take that with a grain of salt. I started with four 2x4s that were 8 feet long and 1 pound of 2½ inch Deckmate star-headed screws, all of which I purchased for under $18, including tax, at Home Depot. And I'd just like to note, if I had purchased a 5-pound box of screws for building multiple stands, or if I used regular old drywall screws, 2½ inch drywall screws, my price per stand would probably drop to around $15. but I cut all my boards to length on a miter saw, attaching a clamp and block to one end, and then I slid each of my pieces against it to ensure each of my cuts were consistent to the same length. It's okay if you're off by a 1/16 of an inch, just make sure that each cut is consistently off by the same amount. So I cut my 4 boards that were 30 and 5/8 inches to fit the length of my 20-gallon aquarium, and then I cut 6 boards that were 10 inches for all of the cross braces to the frame. And then I also cut 4 more boards that were 30 inches for the legs, for a total of 14 pieces of lumber. I then moved on to assembling the frame. I aligned each frame by hand, attaching clamps to keep it in place. And then I proceeded to drill pilot holes for the screws. To have a maximum structural value, wood screws must be installed in pre-drilled holes. 2x4s are actually 1.5 inches thick, meaning that every 2.5 inch screw I drilled had 1 inch of embedment in the adjoining 2x4. You'll also notice that none of the screws are entering the end grain. That's because a screw joint strength is weakest when it's attached to end grain, and it's much stronger when it's attached otherwise. I estimated that each screw can hold at least 25 pounds, and that with 16 screws per frame, that my 20-gallon stand can hold a maximum of around 450 pounds. Water is only 8 pounds per gallon, so my stand will carry a dead load of only around 160 pounds, which means that I'm far below the maximum load and well within the range of the allowable permanent load for the stand. It's important to make sure that the surface you're building on is completely level. If there's any imperfection in your building surface, you could cause your stand to be slanted and incredibly unsturdy. When designing larger aquarium stands, it's important to adjust the design to allow most of the load to be carried by the upright 2x4s as opposed to being carried by the screws or bolts. And you'll see this modification in the SketchUp file if you download it. So, here it is, my finished 20-gallon aquarium stand for under $20. It's nothing fancy, it's just strictly functional and economical. One detail that the time lapse left out was these screws on the sides. I decided to add a couple screws on either side here to screw into the side of the leg, so that I've got 3 screws here and 1 screw here into each of the 2x4 legs. Another thing I added was the 1/2 inch sheet of styrofoam on the top, and what that's going to do is it's going to insulate the bottom of the tank, and it's also going to help to level the tank to make sure that the tank rests completely level on top of the stand, and that's going to alleviate any of the stress on the aquarium glass and the silicone. Optionally, you could build in adjustable shelving, plywood shelving, into the space that's now available here. But I've decided not to do that because it would just increase the cost of the stand. Also, you could paint it or stain it if you wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it the natural wood color because, again, it would just increase the cost of the stand. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this DIY video, please subscribe, and if you have any requests for other DIY videos, please send them my way. I'll just give you a quick walk around here of the stand so you can see it in action. I probably will be swapping the location of this 55-gallon tank and the 20-gallon mangroves here, and put the mangroves on top of this newly constructed stand, and then put it here, and then I'll slide the 55-gallon tank over. So that's the plan. I'll get to that as soon as I can, and until then, that's all I've got. Alright guys, see you later.